Why study philosophy? One of the main reasons is to correct our worldview. Our world is bombarded with the idea of materialism. It permeates every aspect of our life. In order to correct this, we need to study the traditional Catholic understanding of the world, of nature, of being. Philosophy also gives us the ability to make quick decisions in many of the difficult life situations we face. An example is by using logic, we can quickly refute many common arguments. An example is when people ask us little things throughout the day, maybe about ethics or morality. Oftentimes they'll be using arguments that are based on faulty foundations. By understanding logic, we can quickly call them out. We can say, you're using something such as a straw man argument. Or often one what people do is say, oh, this person is like Hitler, therefore this person is horrible. Now, this is what you call an ad hominem. You're calling someone a name, you're saying they're like Hitler, even though they're maybe not like Hitler, and then you are ascribing things to them. Now, even though at first we may understand that there's a problem with this person's argument, it is only through studying logic and having the philosophical tools ready at our disposal that we can point out and correct these philosophical problems or these fallacies. Another problem that we can correct is with metaphysics and philosophical psychology, or the study of life. So there are many problems and ideas that are being thrown at us as real possibilities that philosophically and really theologically are completely impossible. Let's take the example we always hear about in the news. People are on the verge of making new life. Can man make new life? And when we look at the very basics of philosophy of life, we can see that man does not have the capacity to make a new type of life. Only God can do that. Now, once we study philosophy, we have the proper tools and terminology. We can then articulate where the problem is, what man can do, and precisely what man can't do. An example, man can change the way life is. So man can take a dog and make me put in some genes of a cat or some other animal. But that thing is still a dog or a cat or whatever thing that man is genetically manipulating. But man cannot make a new type of life. Only God can do this. Another question that people often ask, do clones have souls? Well, studying the basics of psychology or the philosophy of life, we can very clearly see that if it is a clone and it is living, then it does indeed have a soul. And another question, do human clones have human souls? Well, if we understand what is unique about the human soul from the souls of any other animal, by watching the operations and actions of that human clone, we can very clearly tell if it does or does not have a human soul. Next, by understanding the intellect, the philosophy of mind, we can answer this question of artificial intelligence. There's been a lot in the news about artificial intelligence and how it's on the verge. Do we have to worry about artificial intelligence taking over? When we look very closely at what is artificial intelligence, we can see that this is not truly intelligence, because true intelligence requires one to know and understand the external world. What we see in artificial intelligence is merely logic. And why do we have this problem? Why can't Catholics clearly see this problem? Is because modern man has been thrown into this world of materialism. They are embedded with materialism in everything they do. So that's all they really see. A very clear understanding of the human intellect reveals that the intellect has both material and immaterial operations. Because man can only make an artificial intellect with material operations, then there will never be a true artificial intelligence. Now, by understanding philosophy, we can also articulate in what ways a computer can mimic true intelligence, but what it's not truly doing. So for example, there is something called Google Similar Images. And it's where you take a photo of maybe a chair, upload it to Google, it will scan it and find similar images of this chair. But if we really look at what Google Similar Images does, if you look at the search results, it really fails to identify the same thing you uploaded. You might get a few chairs, but as you keep scrolling down, you'll see pictures of things that are completely different than a chair. Now, a little child can look at a chair and identify other chairs very easily with little effort. However, the giant Google servers are incapable of doing this. The reason? Because they do not have an immaterial intellect. Another area that philosophy helps us understand is morality. So we have a lot of problems nowadays with the morality of contraception and other sexual acts. Now, in order to explain these in a way that other people are going to listen, we cannot just appeal to revelation and sacred scripture or tradition. We have to go to nature. We have to explain philosophically why some of these modern sexual actions have problems, whereas their ethical problems just buried deep within our understanding of nature and human reason. Through studying natural law and philosophy, we can very easily do this. When I've talked to non-Catholics, even atheists, about these concerns, they have said, I can see and understand why you hold that, even though I disagree with you. Another thing we can study, what is man? By understanding what man is, we can have a better understanding of what the Eucharist is. To do this, we have to go to St. Thomas's understanding of man. And it was through this that the term transubstantiation was coined to understand the Eucharist. This understanding gives us a better devotion and comprehension of the Eucharist, but it also allows us to more easily explain this concept to non-believers. Philosophy is also the first line of defense against error. I like to think of our defense against heresy. It's like a castle. In the middle, you have the keep. That's the strongest defense. We can think of this as the dogmas. That's the last line of defense that you can go through. The next layer is the big wall. Those are the writings of the saints, the popes, and the great theologians. And the most broad line of defense is philosophy. With good philosophy, you can very quickly tell that many of these ideas that people are proposing are wrong. Not necessarily because they have theological problems, but just philosophically, they have problems in and of themselves and shouldn't even be considered any further. So you can see how studying philosophy really gives you an overall grasp of life. Now, because of this, bad philosophy is really dangerous, because all of us have our lives permeated with modern philosophy and materialism. It has trickled down into every aspect of our life. It is essential that we correct this worldview by replacing it with the Catholic philosophy, especially the philosophy of St. Thomas Aquinas. Many of us see the world, but we see it through glass darkly. It is hindered by modern thought and materialism. Instead, if we are going to correct this problem and see the world clearly through the light of Christ, we must feed our starving intellects with Catholic philosophy, so that we may clearly see the world properly ordered by God.